Welcome into DMW Sports. Happy to have you guys back here to talk about the Minnesota Vikings 2025 NFL season preview. And look, this is a team that I kind of feel bad about putting here, and not in the sense in which I like have sympathy or anything. It's just I think that this is probably something that I'm probably going to end up getting wrong, but unfortunately, they're in a division that is so good, and I have belief in the other team so much that somebody has to kind of come at last and be a little bit of a candidate for regression coming off what was an impressive 14-win season for the Minnesota Vikings. And it's tough because again, I really like this head coach. I really like the GM. Kevin O'Connell personally is a grade for me. I think that he is one of the best coaches in the National Football League. The ability for him to continue to give his offenses advantages on a consistent basis is impressive. I know I'm not necessarily grading the code nerdies, but I think Brian Flores is awesome as a defensive coordinator as well. And I think Kwesi has done a great job at GM too, being able to put together one of the better rosters in the National Football League. It all ultimately rests, which comes down to the team direction of betting it all on JJ McCarthy. And obviously, JJ McCarthy, top 10 pick for the Minnesota Vikings a year ago, ended up getting hurt, ceding the entirety of last year's job to Sam Darnold as a result. And now comes in with the ability to start fresh, his rookie, quote unquote, rookie year, and see what he has to bring to the table with a pretty good situation and certainly surroundings as well. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the Minnesota Vikings have in store for 2025. Let's get to the offseason review. All right, so let's talk about this offseason review for the Minnesota Vikings. And it started off with Sam Darnold moving on to be the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. I'm obviously expecting to see JJ McCarthy step up into the starting quarterback job, ultimately look to see, or to capitalize, I should say, on his very good season for the Minnesota Vikings. David Quisenberry lost as far as offensive line is concerned. Same thing for Cam Robinson, who tried to fill in for Christian Darrisaw. Again, those are big shoes to fill, and even so, still gave up a lot of pressure as well. Cameron Bynum lost out of the secondary. It was a really good piece for what Brian Flores wanted to do on the back end. Ed Ingram also along the offensive line, same thing for Dalton Risner and Garrett Bradbury. Jerry Tillery along this defensive line was able to be kind of effective as far as being able to create a little bit of pressure and disruption on the inside. Stephon Gilmore, an effective corner for this team last year, also currently unsigned. He could always come back, but he is not on the Minnesota Vikings as of right now. As far as the additions, Will Fry is coming back over to add to the offensive line depth as well. It does have a chance, I would say. I wouldn't say a chance. He is slated to start at right guard as well. So there is going to be a reliance upon him. Speaking of which, offensive line, Ryan Kelly also brought in to be the starting center for the Minnesota Vikings as they tried to overhaul the interior of this offensive line that did struggle a year ago. Jonathan Allen brought over from the Commanders to be an interior defensive line presence. Isaiah Rodgers on the outside given a solid deal to be able to be a cornerback for this team. Javon Hargrave, again, also adding to the defensive line depth. Jordan Mason, somebody that I'll talk about a little bit later on, traded for the 48, traded for from the San Francisco 49ers, a person that the San Francisco 49ers got some good run out of last year, ultimately coming on for CMC when he was hurt, something that the Niners want to feature as far as Jordan Mason is concerned. Jeff Okudah adding to the defensive back depth as far as that is concerned. Tim Jones, special team AC, is currently on the practice squad. We'll see if he gets called up a few times. And then also Rondale Moore to add to the wide receiver depth on this team. And then we get to the draft. The 2025 draft for the Minnesota Vikings started with Donovan Jackson early on out of Ohio State, a guy that I think obviously first round pick, Ohio's a really good guard out of Ohio State specifically. And again, a part of that overhaul for this interior offensive line. Ty Felton adding to the wide receiver depth in this room. Tyrion Ingram Darkins being able to add as far as the defensive line depth in this room as well. Defensive end, we'll see how much he ends up playing, but the vision for him from Brian Flores is going to be kind of interesting to watch. Kobe King also adding to the linebacker depth. And then Galvin Bartholomew, who will start his season on PUP, is a tight end. So we'll see if he ends up coming off of PUP later on as well. All right. With that being said, as far as the expectations for the Minnesota Vikings this year, obviously, again, coming off that 14-win season, being able to replicate that with JJ McCarthy is going to be tough. But this is certainly a team that does expect to be right back in the playoffs, if not competing for this division to try and host a home playoff game. To make that happen, of course, they have to overcome some really good teams in the division and obviously get a good year out of JJ McCarthy. Of course, we have to talk about what JJ McCarthy brings to the table for the Minnesota Vikings this upcoming season. So we get into the full scope as far as JJ McCarthy is concerned, and we've got some preseason clips here. But of everything that we saw from him in Michigan, and some of the aspects in which you look at what he was asked to do in that standpoint, it is going to be very similar of what Kevin O'Connell is going to ask him to do. Hey, be comfortable getting under center, obviously play out of the play action game, be able to attack the middle of the field on a consistent basis. There are some limitations as far as his arm talent is concerned, in my opinion. I don't think that he has really a cannon or a plus arm in that standpoint. I think that his athleticism is solid and functional more so than it is game changing, especially as far as the quarterback run game is concerned. I don't think that's something that's really accessible as well. I'm outside of certain specific circumstances, not something that you build your run game out of. He does appear to have a good mind for the game. I think that his toughness and leadership showed up in moments, especially in college, which was something that did impress me. The reality situation is, I think that ultimately he sitting for a year probably will end up helping him, even if it was hurt. The fact that he could just kind of observe things, get comfortable with the NFL was already going to be a little bit of a question mark. And I think that he is somebody that you're going to have to see the mental process and kind of make up for things for him to be a really true drop back passer that is a danger to other defenses. I think right now, the way in which Kevin O'Connell wants to use him, I think will be effective. I think he can be an average guy and then maybe a solid starter in the future, to say the least. It just really is about how well his mental processing can make up for some of those limitations that do exist. Reality situation is JJ McCarthy, if he is an average quarterback this upcoming season, then where I have the Vikings place will end up being wrong, and they'll probably be much better as far as that aspect is concerned. Am I going to just say that he's going to be thrust in here and be average? I'm going to have to see it first to not say that he's going to go through those quote unquote rookie struggles that would have happened last year had he not gotten hurt. That being said, JJ McCarthy comes into a really good situation. We'll see what he has coming in at 30th as my quarterback tiers are concerned, due to him being a complete unknown as it pertains to the 2025 Minnesota Vikings. That being said, let's go ahead and get to the rest of the roster around JJ McCarthy this upcoming season. So as we look at this roster, the overhaul of the interior of the offensive line is the thing to note immediately. Again, bringing in Ryan Kelly from the Colts to be able to secure that center position. Every single young quarterback needs a veteran offensive line, especially a center in front of him, to kind of make him feel comfortable in that aspect is concerned. Will Fries comes over from the Colts as well to kind of handle that right guard position. Donovan Jackson, first round pick at Ohio State. I like what he brings to the table. Again, can be a good starter at left guard, maybe even a great starter. Depends on how much he can kind of overcome some of the physical limitations that he has. Christian Darrisaw, and also the key thing for me at least, Christian Darrisaw comes back from that big injury that he had last year. Donovan Jackson has a little left tackle experience. I thought could be something that if they wanted to ease Christian Darrisaw back in, could be, they could use, but it seems like Christian Darrisaw is going to be ready to go from day one. Fortunately for the rest of this team, as Christian Darrisaw is, no doubt about it, one of the best left tackles, one of the best tackles in the National Football League as well. Brian O'Neill on the right side forms a very nice bookend tackle duo. So this offensive line, if the veteran additions at Donovan Jackson step up, could be one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League. Just all depends on how that ultimately gels as well. Wide receiver wise, they made the trade for Adam Thielen to bring him back into the slot, given the fact that they'll be without Jordan Addison for the first 3 games of the NFL season due to suspension. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. He is in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the National Football League. An awesome player, has been since his rookie year. Just he blows my mind with the ability that he has really and possesses. TJ Hawkinson, coming back from the injury last year, started to feel a little bit like himself down the stretch. Hopefully you can see him return fully to form there coming up this upcoming year, because he is, again, when he's right, one of the best tight ends in the National Football League as well. Then the running back room is interesting. Aaron Jones, veteran guy that came over from Green Bay, provides the catching the ball at the backfield element, also still a good runner of the football. Jordan Mason then comes over in a trade from San Francisco. How they decide to kind of pair these guys and usage is going to be something that I'm going to be watching certainly earlier on in the year. Let's go ahead and flip to the defense led by Brian Flores. So the offense gets a B plus. I think it's more talented than the defensive roster. And I think a lot of the ways in which this defensive roster that I give a B minus grade personally is special is because of the things that Brian Flores puts these guys in position to be able to do. And I'm interested to see how he deploys some of these guys, but particularly along the front seven, which he specializes in. And so Jonathan Allen comes over from Washington to be able to add to the defensive line room and some veteran presence. Same thing for Javon Hargrave as well in the interior. Like I said, they drafted Tyron Ingram Dawkins. How much run does he end up getting as far as the defensive end room is going to be fascinating to watch. Then you look at kind of the odd front edge rushers. Obviously, those stand-up guys. Jonathan Gennard is one of the more underrated players in the National Football League coming off the edge. Andrew Van Ginkel is a do-it-all outside linebacker as well. The big guy that's going to be a question mark to see, Dallas Turner did not show up a lot as far as the Alabama first-round pick from the 2024 NFL Draft, as far as being able to really supercharge a pass rush, like his counterparts, in my opinion, or counterpart, I'll say specifically in Jared Verse, who was excellent for the Rams, and Lavi Latu, who I thought was pretty good for the Colts too. Dallas Turner never really got that traction. Now the question mark is going to be ultimately, can he find it here in his sophomore year? Interior linebacker play, Blake Cashman, Yvonne Pace Jr., a good combination there. A little bit of help as far as the depth is concerned with Eric Wilson or I should say with Kobe King specifically there. Safety room, loses a big piece in Cameron Bynum. I thought that he was really fun and really creative the ways in which Brian Flores was able to deploy him. The fact that he's not in this team now is going to be a little question mark. Joshua Metellus stepping up into a bigger role. Harrison Smith, of course, the staple as the veteran on this defense for many years here in Minnesota. Quarterback room underwent a little bit of a facelift. Isaiah Rodgers kind of replaces what Stephon Gilmore came as the primary cornerback on this team. Jeff Okudah, a little bit of that reclamation project as well. Byron Murphy going into the nickel. It'll be interesting to see how, if they can replicate that level of cornerback play that they got last year and what Flores wants to do. But again, like I said, B- as far as the talent on paper is concerned. Flores is the thing that accentuates what this defense can do. With that being said, let's get to my first breakout player. So my first breakout player involves that trade that came over from the San Francisco 49ers, Mr. Jordan Mason himself. I don't believe that Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi ended up trading for a running back just for this guy not to be used on a significant basis. And I think there's a real possibility that there ends up being a real split as far as him and Aaron Jones, especially on the early down work, to be able to allow him to showcase these skills that you're seeing as far as the tape is concerned, being able to get inside the tackles and also outside the tackles. He filled them very admirably for CMC last year. I think he has an opportunity here to try and take a lead in this backfield, especially on the ground, because of how much KOC is really good at designing a run game and the fact that they obviously are very, keen on being able to bring him in as well. Aaron Jones is obviously aging as far as that aspect is concerned. I think they do want to make sure that they keep the tread on the tires for Aaron Jones within check, and Jordan Mason giving the ball to him certainly is a great way of being able to still stay incredibly effective at the position while not taxing Aaron Jones so much. So Jordan Mason is my breakout for the 2025 Minnesota Vikings. For the things that got me excited is right here in the middle of your defense, Mr. Ivan Pace Jr., undrafted free agent for the Minnesota Vikings, a guy that I think that Brian Flores loves. He is a spirit animal for Brian Flores defense to be able to send on blitzes. He's a really good rusher, the passer. You're going to see him here number 40 in the middle of this Vikings defense. I love what he brings to the table. He causes havoc on a consistent basis versus the run of the pass. And when you see him and the way in which Brian Flores deploys him against the blitz or using the blitz specifically and creates those angles for him to get after passer, it is so fun to watch. So my exciting player to watch is whatever Ivan Pace Jr. is doing on a consistent basis with Brian Flores' blessing, of course. So like I mentioned earlier, my current concern really does come down to JJ McCarthy. I think that this roster is very good. Again, I gave a B+ for the offense, a B- for the defense, and that's without necessarily taking into account what Brian Flores can do to elevate the talent on that side of the ball. This team looks like it's poised to have all of the offensive infrastructure necessary for a young quarterback to succeed from day one. It looks like it's going to have a defense to be able to support said offense as well. Tough division, a tough schedule upcoming because the record was so good last year. It is going to be about how ready JJ McCarthy is to take over this job as well. And again, if he comes in and gives them average quarterback play, similar to what Sam Darnold gave them last year, ultimately the numbers are going to look really good, and he himself is going to feel very good. And ultimately, the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a good team. It's just about where his level lands, and that is my major concern. If this kid, JJ McCarthy, can come in and give them really good play, then ultimately the sky's the limit for the Minnesota Vikings. The question is, how much can you count on JJ McCarthy doing so? Me personally, I have my questions about him as a prospect, and so those are going to carry over as far as the 2025 Minnesota Vikings are concerned. But the good thing is he's in as good of a situation as possible to have success as well. Let's go ahead and get to my hot take. So look, my hot take is simple. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the National Football League, and I understand Jamar Chase was absolutely spectacular last year, winning the Triple Crown. He is the only wide receiver, as far as talent is concerned, that I would put in Justin Jefferson's tier across the National Football League. But I truly do feel like Justin Jefferson, from a route running perspective, from a polish aspect of it, and the fact that he has the ability to go up and get the ball over any defender, and at many times two defenders at the same time, with the way in which he has a very unique movement ability, both without the ball and with the ball, to be able to break down defenders. He's just a total package. I truly do feel that way as far as a wide receiver is concerned in the National Football League. He had burst on the scene, like I said, as a rookie, and he was spectacular that first year. He has continued to be so since he's been here. The fact that he had such a limited production, even while missing some games, is a testament to how great he is. And I believe full-heartedly that J.J. McCarthy will be relying on him on a consistent basis this upcoming season, because when in doubt, just throw it up to 18 and let him make a play for you. That is how great of a wide receiver Justin Jefferson is, and that's why Jett is number one in my personal opinion. Let's get to the predictions. Whole prediction for the upcoming 2025 NFL season is the fact that Justin Jefferson does lead the league in receiving yards. And again, question mark as far as what the talent around him may seem, specifically about the quarterback aspect of it. Is KOC going to dial up enough plays to Justin Jefferson? Of course, he certainly is. He's going to get his fair share of targets. I think that Justin Jefferson is going to get back to his rightful place at the top of the wide receiver leaderboards, rightfully so, because he is the best as far as I'm concerned as well. And I'm excited to watch him play once again. Now, as far as the record prediction, it does not feel good, because I feel like I'm going to end up being wrong, and JJ McCarthy is going to be good, solid, average, and this Vikings team is going to be right back in the playoffs. But again, I think there's some regression as far as how good of a record it was last year. And JJ McCarthy is a prospect that I personally just didn't believe all that much in. And so as a result of that, I think the Vikings are going to end up going 8-9, in which is a very difficult division, a very difficult schedule upcoming for them. And even though they will be entertaining because of the other players that they have and all the fun things that Brian Flores does on defense, that's where I have the record now. And again, this is something that I think I could easily be wrong about, and they could be right back in the playoffs and much better. So we'll see how it turns out. Thank you so much for coming by to the 2025 Minnesota Vikings season preview. Please make sure that you like this video, watch the others, or like those as well. Subscribe to the channel at DMW Sports. We're also on TikTok and Twitter at DMW Sports and Sports DM.